All right. Now, this next section will be one of the more important research sections that we talk about, which is understanding title issues and lien theory. And this will help you especially with your purchases of normal real estate transactions and investment properties as well, guys. So let's talk about the basics of a title report. And let's see. Terry, yes, thanks. Okay. Guys, keep the questions coming. I love it. If there's material that I need to prepare between now and tomorrow, just try to think of anything that maybe you want to see more detail on, like Troy's. I'll get some more specifics, and we'll make sure that every single one of your questions is answered and you guys are 100% happy. That's the goal, okay? But understanding title issues. When purchasing a property, one of the most important documents in the process is the title to the property. It's a document that grants the holder the right to use and control the property, and a defective title could result in expensive consequences to the purchaser. A property title search will provide the buyer with a title report detailing the history of the title. A title report will allow a purchaser to see if they have defective title, and they can react accordingly prior, that's the key point, to finalizing the sale. Now, how does that relate to tax lien purchasing? Okay. Well, when we get done with this section about tax lien theory, purchasing a tax lien certificate where there's a big mortgage on it, that doesn't scare me off a whole lot because I've got lien priority over a mortgage in most states. And the states where that's not the case, I just don't invest in, like Indiana. Now, is Indiana a bad place to invest in? No. Okay. But I don't buy from their tax lien certificates or tax deed sales in Indiana for that main reason, is because when I foreclose with my tax lien certificate rights, it does not extinguish the mortgage. So I might have the deed to the property, but guess what? I've just inherited a mortgage and they could foreclose me out. So I don't invest in that state for that reason, okay? A defective title does not necessarily mean a buyer should not purchase the property. It just means that there are added risks to the purchase. A buyer faced with a defective title should consult a title attorney for advice on the risks associated with the purchase. I'm just going to say this, guys, at the beginning of your real estate career, if you come up with something that you cannot get in a normal transaction, a full title insurance with a general warranty deed, just walk away for now. There'll be other opportunities, okay? I've dealt with many, many title issues over the years, but that comes with experience, and I just don't recommend it starting out, okay? So let's go into the title report just a little bit more. So this is one of our title people that we use out in the marketplace, and Krista was making me aware of some title issues. So I just copied and pasted her email into this document here. Attached is the completed title work on this property. Please review the items under B/1, number 5s, blah, blah, blah. These items will need to be cleared and released of record, or the buyer has to purchase subject to these items. We can start a request, da, 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 okay. And what she's basically saying is there's some problems with the title. And there's some industry terms that you're going to hear that I want to kind of define for you briefly. You've already heard the term defective title. That doesn't mean those defects, like we were saying, can't be cleared off. I will tell you that sometimes the liens on the properties are so large, even if you could get them cleared off or paid off, you're going to be so far upside down in the deal, you're going to lose money, okay? So if there's an IRS lien on the property for 100 grand and the property is only worth 50,000, you're already upside down even before you start your rehab. It can be a major problem, okay? So let's go actually look at the title report that she sent and get an idea of what she's talking about. So let's go down to the section here. Okay, B1. All right. So she's asking for some of our corporate documents. That's easy. So I provided her with our LLC information so she could prove that we're a valid corporation, so that when she goes to record the deed in our name, that she knows she's doing it legally. So that's a condition that can easily be met based on the requirements of the underwriter of the title insurance company. Here's where it gets sticky. Okay, we did not buy this property, by the way, and this was one that we were looking at buying the tax lien certificate, and we ended up not doing it, by the way. So we've got a judgment for civil penalty of $2,500. Okay, that's a private civil matter. I don't want to get in the middle of that. Okay, code violation, code enforcement. I mean, wow. Now the property wasn't in that bad a shape, actually. It was one that we could have fixed up. But man, this particular municipality, and these are old liens, but they're still stuck there, you guys. I mean, you could have a lien that the underwriter could see that's 10 years old, and in some areas there's no statute of limitations for this old stuff, so you got to be really careful. A bunch of code enforcement. Now here's the big one. Here's the big one that came up, and this was before I even had my drive-by done. Okay. Notice of impending raising of structure. And we felt like we knew the property was in rough shape, but this is a demolition notice. Raising is another term for demolition. And it doesn't always mean that the property is not salvageable, but it may mean that the city has goals to clear blight. So if some of the cities raised their criteria on what they would demo, especially during the downturn in the market, because blight brings crime, meaning vacant abandoned houses bring crime. And even if the property could be rehabilitated, it'd still say take the house down. And then whoever owns that property, whoever's the legal owner, would then get the bill for the demolition bill. Okay. I can tell you that we purchased a tax lien in a portfolio. The deed was awarded to us, but it was in a large portfolio. There is one property up in Syracuse, New York, where the property condition turned south quickly within just a couple months, so badly that we got a demo notice on it. So we did have to demo the property. On the portfolio, we were very, very profitable. On this one particular tax lien that was included with the pool that we purchased, we lost money, at least $6,000 on that particular deal. Again, that's kind of the needle in the haystack in this business, unless you're not doing this research, okay? But yeah, you just have to be careful, guys. Okay, and the rest of the title report's fairly standard. They're going to go in and look at the property boundaries. They're going to look at the legal description, prior chain of title and ownership to make sure that there's no break in the chain of title, meaning that the property is legally passed from owner to owner over the past several years, so that, you know, if the person that you're buying the property from didn't legally buy it, or the deed was recorded incorrectly, you might give that person money, but you might end up with a bad deed, for example. Now, as it relates to tax lien investing, sometimes we're not necessarily concerned with that, because by the time we get done doing our foreclosure, if it comes to that, it's going to wipe away any previous claims against the property from any previous owners potentially as well. Okay. Now, that's not in all states. Types of deeds. Now, this is, again, really important. We talked about a general warranty deed, but let's start down here with a quitclaim deed. There are different types of deeds, meaning there's different methods that you can give property ownership to other people. A quitclaim deed is the least protective deed as far as your bundle of rights and guarantees about the cleanliness or validity of the insurability, I should say, of the title. Basically, it only conveys whatever rights or interests, misspelled that, the grantor has in the property. It provides no warranties or covenants to the buyer. If the person giving the deed or the grantor has good title, the quitclaim deed is as effective as a general warranty deed, but with none of the guarantees that title insurance might have with it. It's only used potentially to cure defects in the title, but it's frequently used to transfer property between family members and or investor to investor purchases. Okay. If you do a quitclaim deed, it's about 1/10 the cost of doing a full general warranty deed and title insurance. And so I've used quitclaim deeds many times, but only after I knew I had clean title. If you're going onto eBay or a site like Bid for Assets and you're buying a property for $5,000 on a quitclaim deed, odds are you're probably going to lose money on that deal. Okay. Unless you're getting a full title report done on it and you know there's no hangups or problems, then maybe you take the risk. But in general, there's only really specific uses for a quitclaim deed that I would say are appropriate. Okay. Bargain and sale deed. Now, let me name some different names. Bargain and sale deed, referee's deed, tax deed, foreclosure deed, sheriff's deed, probably repeating myself. These are the types of deeds that you get when you buy a property at an auction. Okay? They offer no guarantees or warranties of title. It's just conveying the property so then you can go fix it up. Okay? So if there's an old mortgage on it and you're in a state that the mortgage isn't cleared by the foreclosure process, guess what? You might get a bargain and sale deed or a sheriff's deed or referee's deed when you buy the auction, but you could have just inherited $10,000 like we were showing in code compliance liens. Old mechanics liens wouldn't be wiped out in some states, okay? And mortgages possibly. States I invest in, the foreclosure deed wipes out everything except for IRS, okay? And municipal liens like a code compliance lien, all right? So that's that type of deed. A special warranty deed is kind of a hybrid. I've used these from time to time. A special warranty deed is not nearly as protective as a general warranty deed, but it's closer. And all the grantor, the current owner or seller of the property is saying that they haven't put any new liens on it or encumbrances to the property since they have owned it, which can be kind of scary if it's a flipper you're buying the property from. So if you get a special warranty deed from somebody selling you a property and they've only owned it for a few days or a month or 6 months, I mean, the odds of them putting a new lien on it are probably slim. But what if you're inheriting something from prior to that that's going to cause a defect on title? So you got to be really careful. Now, most of you that own property, that live in a house, maybe some of you got bank loans on it, like a mortgage, right? Just know this, a bank will not lend you money to purchase a home unless you're getting here a full general warranty deed with full title insurance. And with that title insurance comes a full title search like the one that we just looked at a few minutes ago, okay? It is preferable to get all of your real estate on a full general warranty deed, but an experienced investor that knows how to do their research like we're talking about here can feel confident when you're going to a tax deed auction that you've reduced your risk as much as possible by doing a lot of research and so forth on that deal. So what we're basically saying is the seller or grantor conveys the property with certain covenants or warranties, and the grantor is legally bound by those warranties, whether expressly written in the deed or implied by certain statutory words. And I won't get into all the legalese, okay? But it's basically saying that you own the property, that you're the legal owner, that the title insurance, if there's any liens or encumbrances that were missed, that the title insurance will pay for those. So let's say there's a code compliance lien of $2,000 that was missed in the title search. You buy the property, and a month later you get a bill from the city saying, hey, there's an old weed abatement lien from 2 years ago that's $2,000 and you need to pay it. You would then, in that case, under most circumstances, be able to go back to the title company and make a claim against the title insurance. What I will tell you is these title insurance companies are incredibly savvy for the most part. In my years since 1998, being involved in this business, I've only seen two instances where a claim has made and come back against title insurance. It's very, very, very rare where I've seen insurance because they're very thorough in most cases about searching public record because they know if they mess up, they might pay out a lot of money later on if there's a claim made. Okay, so that's your different types of deeds. Now let's go into lien theory a little bit here, guys. The term tax lien, mortgage lien, these are all types of encumbrances, and they're monetary claims against the property to secure an obligation or debt to the property owner, sorry. A contractor could place a mechanic lien. Okay, I've dealt with those before, and they're really sticky. They stick to the title really well in certain states. Liens for unpaid taxes are common. Mortgages are common. Court judgments. I will tell you this, another one that holds a ton of weight is back child support liens. Those are a tough one, rightfully so. But let's talk about the different types here. Okay, mortgage or trust deed, deed restrictions. Now, this is one that we don't often think about, okay? Often known as covenants or conditions. So if you're in a deed restricted community and somebody's violated the rules of living in that deed restricted community, that association, that homeowners association or deeded community can actually place a lien on that property. Okay, so if for example, the rules say in the community, you can't have any pink flamingos in your front yard or yard gnomes. And there's always somebody in every community that enforces the rules and goes around and tattles on their neighbors, okay? So they can place a lien on your property if you continually violate those restrictions or covenants. They're common when new subdivisions are developed. The developers and builders place deed restrictions in order to control the uses. And most of the time it's to maintain standards and keep property values up, okay? So we've got to understand if we're in a high-end community that we're investing in the tax lien certificates, which we have done, that we understand also what comes along with that as far as deed restrictions or possible homeowners association fees or association fees that might be placed on us in the future. Okay. Easements. Boy, howdy, I'll tell you. I'm gonna go off the reservation here for just a minute. Okay. And let me give you a case study here, guys, of what not to do. And this is something that we did not originate the deal, but we picked it up, and we're still going to do very, very well on it. But I'm just looking for my file here, if you'll bear with me. And this was a commercial property that we picked up. And let me pull over the file here. It's in Ash Fork, Arizona. Okay. This, I would say, was another investor that goofed up. And so what happened here is that they lent some money on a particular property. Okay. And I'm just going through the different exhibits here to the deal. This is the deed. And they picked up this property. They didn't realize that they had lent money on a private money loan, and the highway's easement ran right through the middle of the building. So when I looked at this deal, I got it for like 10 cents on the dollar. However, then I had to go to Shirley at the state of Arizona, who's amazing. She works with the Arizona Department of Transportation, and Shirley's just a great person, but she handles all the real estate. And you can see many different emails between myself and Shirley over the past previous months. Okay. And what we had to do is cut a deal with the state of Arizona to buy this easement strip that was our whole frontage of this small commercial building. And without frontage on a commercial building, it's not worth a lot. And it ran through about a third of our building. Okay. So thank you, Sean. We started this negotiation with the state of Arizona back in around December, I want to say. And we finally closed the transaction maybe 4 weeks ago. And the whole purchase price on this, I believe, was $4,500. And I felt bad for the previous guy that missed this because he lent over $100,000 on this property. He then foreclosed on it, and then he found out he had this easement stuck right in the middle of this property. So I'm just going over, everything we did to clean this up. And now we have Jake, who is our real estate agent, and we took a few months to get the title cleared up. And Jake, now I'll show you pictures of the property, guys. I think this is really important to show you because I wouldn't have purchased a tax lien certificate on this property. I wouldn't have lent money on it as a private money lender, and I certainly wouldn't have purchased it. Now, if you went to purchase this property through a traditional title company, guess what? They also check the parcel map, they check the boundary lines, they check the validity of the address. They would have seen that in a traditional purchase that this particular property had an easement going right through it. Okay, and so we're going to get it all cleaned up. We've got roughly, with buying the easement and with the cleanup to the property and with the buyout price to this guy, I think we're into it for maybe $23,000 approximately. And we just got an offer of a lease option on this, on a 7-year lease option. We'll see how that goes. $15,000 down. And I'm just trying to see if that's anywhere in here on the offer. No, that's the invoice. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to show you some real life studies here. But anyway, the offer just came in to a lease option with a guy that wants to run a small like hardware store locally in that area. And $15,000 down, $1,400 a month in rent. His buyout price after a 7-year period would be $99,900. And we gave him a slight counter. We would like for him to close out the deal sooner than 7 years. But I was okay with the purchase price. I was okay with the monthly cash flow amount. And also on this, it would be formed somewhat like a triple net lease where he's going to be responsible for all maintenance on the property. Of course, we'll be looking. We'll have a couple inspections every year, some drive-bys to make sure he's not trashing the place. Also, the deed will not go into his name, so we'll be in charge of making sure the property taxes are paid current because I don't want to lose the property to some other tax lien investor like you guys if we don't pay our property taxes. So that's just, again, a case study of what somebody did wrong, and we stepped in, cleaned up the deal. But it wasn't, as you could see, all those emails, there was a lot of labor and effort and some upfront cash to get the deal back into shape where it's at today. And unfortunately, the other guy lost a lot of money on this deal. But he was just done. He was done with it. Okay? So easements can be a big, big deal. Okay? 2 types of main easements. Easements in gross, utility easements, right-of-ways, electricity, all that. Okay? Now, this other one, appertenant, I always screw that up. When 2 properties with different owners are adjacent to each other and one has rights to use the property of the other. Shared driveways, public road access into utilities, things like that. Check that out. Again, that's all stuff that a good title person is going to find for you. A mechanics lien can be especially when a subcontractor doesn't get paid, you guys, a judge is going to award that mechanics lien very quickly because they've done work to improve the property. In my state, I've dealt with a handful on properties we've purchased. And I usually go to those contractors and I'll negotiate for them to walk away and release the lien. But many times they'll say, nope, I did $3,000 worth of tile work and I want all $3,000 plus my fees to file the mechanics liens of another couple $100, and I'll pay it off. But mechanics liens in my state survive a foreclosure. Okay, there is a statute of limitations on when they have time to perfect them. So if they don't go make their claim within 18 months of the work being done, they cannot perfect the lien, and that means they will have no claim. And then once that lien's perfected and liened against the property, good luck at getting it off unless you pay that guy off. So that's something that you really have to check into. Now, guys, I know we're getting now to our ending time for the day, and you guys are real troopers to stick it out and listen to me ramble for this whole time, okay? And I know some of this stuff is a little tedious getting through, and I hope that you can appreciate the gravity of what we're doing here. And Troy, again, we'll get you some examples of where to go buy and show you the exact locations. But even before, I was chomping at the bit to buy, but still very cautious. But I really, really want to nail down this stuff with you guys and encourage you to read the manual and get through all the training videos, some of which will be a repeat of what you've seen here today, but with, maybe less case study, for example. But the main point is here, before you spend one penny on this, I'm super excited to get through everything that we're going to do tomorrow. And just know, you guys, by the time I get done with you, you're going to be a million miles ahead of where you would have been just doing this on your own. And trust me, I did it by myself when I started, very cautiously, very slowly. But I can also say I didn't grow as fast as I really, really wanted to. So let's see, guys. Let's open it up. If anybody has any specific requests for tomorrow, you can let me know now, or first thing when we log in tomorrow. Just let me know if there's any other subject material that you want more in depth on as well, and we can cover that. So we'll just kind of leave it here for just a second. I kind of wish we all had mics and could talk and have an open discussion. That's preferable for me. But with this particular technology, it's we got a chat room, so that's good and bad. Good and bad. Anyway, guys, I'll just hang tight here for just a minute. If anybody wants to add anything or any questions or requests, I'll just sit tight for just a minute. Yesterday we ended, if you remember, talking about lien theory. Okay. There is just a few more items that I wanted to cover on that I felt were important in doing background research on any property of any sort of, real estate investment that you're looking to purchase. Okay. So we talked about the different types of liens that could encumber or cloud your title if you experience them. And let's talk about how we get some of those things released. Number one, having a good title company. Let's say that you buy a property at a tax deed auction and there's code compliance or a weed abatement lien, association lien, things of that nature. I will show you an example of how the correspondence goes with a good title type attorney that's well versed in this subject matter. And we found a good pit bull. His name's Chris Horlocker in Florida. And let's just pull up all of his correspondence more specifically. Okay, so as you can see, we have several correspondence here. This is just going back, about to the end of this year is what's showing here. And on this particular property, okay, this is, I'll just show you this house here real quick. Okay, so you can get an idea of what we're talking about. And bear with me just a moment here. And let's get that property pulled up. I'm going to pull it up on the map here. Okay. Let's pull this over. Now, this particular property is in an area in a neighborhood that I really, really like. It's over on the east side of the state. We owned a tax lien on this. We did the foreclosure process. Okay. You can see where we're at. It's just an absolutely amazing part of Florida. I have driven this. This is over in Port St. Lucie. Okay. And you can kind of get a feel for where it's at here. All right. All right, so it's a new little up and coming neighborhood surrounded by amazing lifestyle, close to the water and all those amenities, and it's in an up and coming growing area, golf courses, the whole 9 yards. So we're very interested in this particular piece of land. Okay, let's see, please see attachments. This particular lien, okay, was a city type lien about weeds and so forth that was there for a long time. I want to say this originated in 2008. Okay, and you can kind of see my correspondence. And let's see, this interest. Okay, so we believe this particular piece of land's worth around $35,000 or so. And we can see the lien total that we're trying to negotiate on is, well, total, everything's about $24,000. So there's a good spread in here for us. And so I'm even, Chris asked me, what sort of payment amount do you guys think is acceptable? Okay. And my response to Chris is as little as possible when he's negotiating this lien for us to get it paid off. And he said, I assumed as much. I'll see if I can get them to make an offer. So again, this was a lien that stayed with the property, that was a municipality type lien on old weeds and code compliance, but had accrued into the $2,000–$3,000 area, which I think is crazy because the original violation was, I believe, about $350. But when the previous owner didn't pay it, interest and penalties have accrued. And so, how do you get a lien release? Sometimes it's just through raw negotiation, and you can pay it off. Once a judgment debt or other financial obligation is paid by the debtor, the creditor legally must release the lien on the debtor's real estate. Make sure you're doing your homework so you don't get upside down in the deal, okay? You can wait, okay? The mere passage of time in many instances will release a lien in most jurisdictions. For instance, in some states, a judgment may be void after 25 years, which results in the release of the judgment lien by operation of law. I am not suggesting that your money be tied up for 25 years. I'm just giving you an example. While exact procedures vary from state to state, the creditor usually must execute a document that releases the lien, so forth and so on. Many times we will initiate what's called a quiet title action. Quiet title action. The quiet title action, okay, or a quiet title lawsuit basically says this, that quiet title action, say Florida, since we've been talking about Florida, but this applies in most states. We just got done with one in Ohio, for example. What is a quiet title action? Well, let's go to some attorney's site that kind of talks about it here. A quiet title action is saying that there's previous notices of interest or liens on a property, and his website's really slow, sorry guys, and somebody, it's been so long that you can start a quiet title action. If they don't respond in a certain time period, they lose their claim or interest. So we've done maybe in our total career, maybe about 15 of these quiet title actions, probably half of which have been with Chris. And they're anywhere from $1,800 to around $2,200 to administrate a quiet title action, which means at the end of a successful quiet title action lawsuit, we end up with any previous claims on the property are extinguished, if any carried over after the foreclosure process. Well, okay, best case example was we were referred to Chris originally from our local title person in Florida that does a lot of our transactions. We found on one of our properties after we acquired it that it had about $120,000 IRS tax lien on it. I'll be honest with you, I shouldn't have missed that. Confessions. We should not have missed that. And that was a big mistake. And I was really, really, really sweating it. Really sweating it. And what had happened was it was a very, very old IRS lien that did not show in our initial research, but I've learned a lesson on that one to do a little bit more advanced research on this particular type of deal, which was a very advanced kind of technical land deal. So let me say that. So you're not going to run into this. It's very unlikely. But about $130,000 federal IRS lien. What it was the previous owners in about 2005 got in trouble or behind with the IRS. They owned several homes and several pieces of land, and the IRS liened everything. Okay, so the tax debt wasn't owed necessarily against this property specifically. They cross-collateralized the lien and lien these previous owners all their stuff to tie it up for the IRS. So I asked for a specialist in this, and that's how I was referred from our title guy locally to Chris, who lives about an hour away from our area in Florida that we were investing in. And so Chris has said, I've dealt with the IRS many times in previous negotiations. My fee is around $2,000. And I said, sold. And because we had a lot of money riding on this deal, and I was very excited about it. And so then Chris proceeded his negotiations over the next few weeks. And as it turns out on this particular case, and results vary, obviously, he was able to get the IRS to release 100% of their interest off of this property. Because number one, we weren't the offenders, the original offenders of the tax debt owed to them. Number two, they still probably had enough collateralized with the other pieces of land or had already sold them or whatever, other properties to have probably made good on this debt is my best guess. So he worked a great thing for us on that, and we've used him ever since. But back to a quiet title action, this is, again, how you remove liens, and this is a very small percentage of the time you're going to ever deal with this. I just want to make you aware. A quiet title action is a lawsuit that is brought in circuit court to clear a party's title to real property. The purpose of a quiet title action is to eliminate all claims to title which might stand in the way of title insurance issuing a clear title policy. Liens, claims by prior owners, and other matters affecting title are called clouds on title. The purpose of a quiet title action is to eliminate any of those clouds. Can be used in a number of different situations. For example, they're often used after a party purchases real property at a tax deed sale. The purpose here is to forever bar prior owners, mortgage, and lien holders from asserting any interest in the real property. Now, I'm not going against what I earlier said of foreclosures get wiped out. In some states, though, if you want to get title insurance, especially, title underwriters will require, if you want a full title insurance policy, that even though by state law the lien is wiped out, they still will require some extra work done on, say, a quiet title action for them to feel comfortable to underwrite the title insurance going forward. I don't blame them. I really don't, because if you have an old title issue that crops up, it can really slow your deal down or kill it. So I don't blame title underwriters for being ultra paranoid about this stuff. I would be too. That's why we understand the process very well, and we take extra precautions not to get a situation where we have a cloud on title that makes it so we cannot resell the property. Okay, so that's quiet title action in general. Okay, let's talk about title search costs. it depends on the depth of the title search. Spending money on deeds you may not purchase isn't feasible or cost effective. So you have to be super cautious here. Meaning if you're looking at one of those lists like we just went through and you pick 10 properties, I'm not suggesting that you go order 10 title reports at $150 each. That's crazy when you might only win the bid on 3 of them, for example, okay? So you've wasted a lot of money and the title company loves you, but your pocketbook is down about $1,000 from stuff you didn't even get to win on the bid. However, when you are about to do a roll-up, okay, a roll-up on, in this situation, okay, so my advice, say to Troy, before he does his roll-up, he owns the tax lien certificate. He, at that point, before he pays off everybody else and starts the tax deed application process, he's definitely going to spend that $150 on a title search, okay? You're going to see stuff on there, and a lot of it's going to get wiped off. You've got to focus on if there's a $130,000 tax lien, okay? Now, the good news is that a lot of this is filed on public record where you can still see the existence of it if you go and look at a CoreLogic report, okay, or just basic public records. And or if you have a good friend that you're doing title business with, they'll look it up for you at no charge. I have people that I work with that will look up stuff on county that work at a title company. A local guy here for me is Jason Rentmeister. Been with him about 10 years. And he'll go do some basic preliminary research because here's why he does it. He knows I'm loyal to him and that I will bring all my deals to him, not just some, but whenever I have control of where we close at title here locally, I bring all my deals to him. So it's his way of saying thank you for the business and to further earn my business. So I love it when that works out. Okay. Title search costs can vary. I just pulled this off of a local title company. Just a basic ownership search, okay, about $40. Expanded full property title search, it's a good average price. And then if you want to add on to that, pay a little extra fee, it's, you know, about $250, $260 to get a real in-depth public record search. And that's a good general guideline. There's some online services that do it, but just be cautious. You don't throw good money after bad in some outfit that's not really providing the service that you're looking for. Okay, so that's a general idea of costs on title search there.